3D modeling using FreeCAD is not an easy task if you don't know how to correctly handle the program tools. As an example, I will be using this 3D model to show you how to use the tools in this program to be able to design complex 3D models like this one, for example. I will show you how to design the models in the main 3D modeling workbench of FreeCAD, the PartDesign workbench, and also how to assemble all these parts in the built-in assembly workbench of FreeCAD. I will delete all my FreeCAD settings to start the program from scratch with you. So if any problem arises, I will be showing you how to solve it. Now I'm going to open the program for the first time. Double click. I'll show you how to fix this problem here. First, I will maximize this window, and on this start page, the first thing that I'm going to do is to set some basic configurations for the FreeCAD program. I will change the language to English, and I will say with the standard unit system, and my navigation style I will change to gesture, and I will stay with the FreeCAD like them. So I select this and then I press done. Now I'm going to edit and preference. Now on the general, I navigate to notification area and I disable this option here, and then I press apply and OK. Now I will restart the program because of this text here, which is still in the Portuguese language. So I close the program and I double click to open the program again. As you can see in the start page, we have these all options that we can use to start a new document or to open a document. Or we can use these icons here or go to file and we find these all options here. Here we have the recent files, and here we have some examples that we can open and see. Okay, and here we have the workbench selector. This is an important thing in FreeCAD because FreeCAD is a program based on workbench. For example, on the workbench selector, the current workbench is PartDesign, and this will be the workbench that I will be using to show you how to design all parts of the 3D model. If you click here, you can see this list here of workbench that's available on the FreeCAD program. Some workbenches here are internal and others are external workbench. For example, the PartDesign workbench, the Beam workbench, the Draft workbench, the Part and the Sketch, also the Texture workbench are internal workbench of FreeCAD. But the Fasteners workbench, the Curves workbench, the Assembly Full workbench, and the A2 Plus workbench are external workbench. I installed this workbench on my FreeCAD program. And to assemble the parts of this 3D model, we will be using the Assembly workbench. Okay, now let me show you how to create a document. To create a document, we have two options here in this area. We have the parametric part with the PartDesign workbench, and we have the empty file. And also we have this option here to open documents. Or we can create documents using this icon here, or go to file and new here. I will choose to create a document pressing this option, empty file, and now I'm going to save my document pressing this icon. I will save my model as beginner's model and then OK here. Now I'm going to hide the status bar here. To do that, I press view and I uncheck this option. And now what I'm going to do is to open another instance of FreeCAD to see the 3D model. So I minimize this and then I press 2 times on this icon. And now I'm going to press this option to open a document. And I will look for Rugged Box Assembly, this document here, double click. And here I have the 3D model. As you can see, this 3D model is a set of 4 parts. The part 1 here, the part 2 here, the part 3 here, and the part 4 here. I'm going to start showing how to design the first part. So I'm going to my document, and the first thing that I'm going to do is to create a part design body object on the tree view. As you can see, I have nothing here. So I'm going to press this icon to create a part design body object. This object will store all information related to the first part creation. Now I'm going to rename this body here. So I select the body and I press F2 and rename to part 1 like this. And now I will create a sketch on the XY plane. As you can see, this coordinate system here is too small. So I'm going to increase the size of this coordinate system. To do that, I go to Edit and then Preference. Now here I'm going to Display and 3D View. Here on coordinate system, I'm going to relative size and I increase here to 30%. And now I hit apply, and as you can see, I have this. Now I press OK here, and now I'm going to create my sketch on the XY plane for the first shape of the first part. So I press the create sketch icon, this icon, and here I'm going to attach the first sketch on the XY plane, as I said before. So I select the XY plane, and as you can see, I am on the sketch workbench here. This is the workbench that I'll be using to create the geometries for the sketch. These all tools here are the sketch geometry tools, and these tools here, starting from here, are the sketch constraint tools. And here we have the sketch tool to create fillet, chamfer, and to trim edge, for example. Okay, to create my first geometry, I'm going to pick a tool here, a centered rectangle tool. To do that, I click on this arrow and I select centered rectangle, this option here, and now I click on the origin axis and I check this option to create rounded corners. Now I'm going to set this rectangle to 108 millimeters by 120 and the corner radius of 16 millimeters. And I have this. As you can see, this sketch is full constrained. If I skip this tool, here on the solver message, you see that it's full constrained. So I close this, pressing this button, and now I press home on my keyboard, and as you can see, I have this sketch. Now I'm going to extrude this sketch in the Z-axis. To do that, I have to select the sketch first and then press Pad tool. I can also drag this to here, for example, and these all tools here to here, so I will have more space on the view. And these array tools, these pattern tools here to here. Okay, and now I select the sketch again, and now I press Pad tool to extrude the sketch, and I will set a length of 6 millimeters for this extrusion and enter, and here I have this, as you can see. Okay, and now I'm going to create a fillet on the bottom face of this 3D model. To do that, rotate the view and then select the bottom face, this one here, and then select fillet tool, this icon here. Click on this icon and set a radius of 8 millimeters and then press OK. These tools here are additive tools of PartDesign workbench. We use these tools here to add material to the document, and these tools here to remove material on the solid or on the 3D model, and these tools here to create features like chamfer, fillet, thickness, and these tools here for pattern operations. Now that I have this, I'm going to create thickness on this part here. That operation will create this pocket here. So I select this top face here and then I click on the thickness tool and I change its size to 3 millimeters and then I press OK. Now I'm going to create a sketch on the XZ plane. That sketch I will use to create this shape here. So I'm going to my document and I press create sketch icon and then I select XZ plane here. I just click on this plane here, or I can double click here on the task panel. Double click and here I have this. Okay, I'm going to organize these all toolbars here. So first, for example, I will remove this help icon, right click on mouse, and I have to find the help and disable. Okay, and here I have this. I will also drag these tools here to here. So now I have more space here. Now I'm going to switch to the session view first, pressing this icon. Next, I'm going to change my geometries to construction geometries. To do that, I press this icon, and now I'm going to use this tool here, the external projection geometry, to extract this edge here. So I press this icon, and now I click in this line here. Now I can use this edge here as a reference to place my geometry. So now I escape this tool, And next I change to normal geometry and I select the polyline tool, and first I create a horizontal line here, now a vertical line, and now I click in here in this edge, and now I close the geometry pressing this point here. As you can see, I have a problem here, redundant constraints. Let me show you how to fix this problem. First escape and go to edit, and now go to preference. On this window, navigate to the SketchUp workbench, and now on general, go to general here and check this option, auto remove redundance. Okay, and next just press apply and okay. As you can see, we still have the same problem, redundant constraints here. So what I recommend to do here is to recreate this geometry. I'm going to select these geometries in this way and delete. Okay, and now I'm going to change to construction geometry again and select external projection geometry and extract this edge again, and now change to normal geometry and select polyline tool. And now I'm going to create a horizontal line starting in this point here, now a vertical line and this line here, and now I close the geometry clicking on this point. As you can see, now I don't have problems. Okay, now to set the dimensions of this geometry, I'm going to use the dimension tool of sketch constraint. So I press this icon, and first I set a length for this line here, click off and set 7 millimeters. Now for this line here, I'm going to set 8 millimeters, and this line here and this edge 30 degrees, like this. And as you can see, this sketch is full constrained. Now I'm going to show you how to change the colors of the geometry. To do that, I go to edit and preference. On the sketch workbench, I go to the appearance tab and I change the constrained geometry color to this one, and also the full constrained sketch color to this color. And now I scroll down to colors outside Sketcher, and I'm going to change the vertex color to green and this color also to green. And now I press apply here and okay. As you can see, now I have this. Now I'm going to close this sketch. To close this sketch, we have three options. We can click on this close button, or click on this icon to leave the sketch, or escape 2 times, and what happens is this. As you can see, now I have a confusion on the toolbar, so I'm going to fix this first. To do that, I am going to drag this toolbar to here, and next this toolbar to here, and now this one to here, and this. And now that I have this, it's time to create a shape using this sketch here. So first I'm going to the model tab and I select the sketch here, and the way to create the shape using the sketch here is to use the additive pipe tool, the sweep tool. So I click in here in this icon, and as you can see, I have a problem here. This report view appeared. I'm going to close this and disable the report view. Go to edit, preference, now go to general and go to report view and disable this option, show report view on error, and now hit apply and okay. Okay, now I'm on the pipe parameters, and now I'm going to add a path for this sketch here. To do that, I have to click in object button here on this task panel, and then go to the model tab, and now I'm going to select a path for this sketch as I said. So I will go to the first pad operation, this one here, click on this arrow and use this sketch as the path for this sketch here. So I go to tasks and now I press OK, and here I have this, as you can see. In the next operation, I will create this shape here, and then I will mirror the shape to here. So I go to my document and I will create a sketch on the axis plane again. I will switch to the section view. As you see, I have the same confusion here. So what I'm going to do is to drag this toolbar to here, and this toolbar to here, and this one to here, and this toolbar here is not important. Okay, what I'm going to do first here is to extract some edge of this 3D model as normal geometries. To do that, I have to make sure that I'm working with the normal geometries. As you can see, these all tools here are normal geometries. Okay, so I'm going to click on this icon and start extracting this edge here. Now this edge, and next this edge here, and now this edge, and I'm going to use line geometry to connect this point and this point here. To do that, I select the line tool on the sketch geometry, and now I click on this point, and now on this point here, and as you can see, I have 4 degrees of freedom here. So it means that this line here is not constrained. If I click on this line here and drag this line, as you can see, I can move this line here. To constrain this line here, I'm going to use the constraint constant. I click on this icon. Now I click on this point, and now this point. As you can see, I have 2 degrees of freedom now. Now I click on this point and in this point here, and I have this geometry full constrained. Now if I close this sketch and choose to hide this active pipe here, as you can see, I have this geometry on this sketch. This is a normal geometry. Now if I go to this sketch here and select these all geometries and change to construction geometries and close this document, as you can see, I have nothing here on this sketch, nothing visible on this sketch. So it means that this sketch here, these construction geometries will not appear in should or pocket operation. So now I'm going to convert this back to normal geometries, pressing this icon. And now I'm going to use a rectangle. I click in here and select create rectangle, and I created this rectangle here. And first I'm going to add the chamfer in these bottom corners. As you see in this 3D model, we have this chamfer here. So I'm going to create this chamfer on the rectangular geometry. To do that, I go to this tools here. I click in here and I select create chamfer. And now I just click on this line and in this line here, and I do the same in this corner. And I have this. Now I'm going to select the equal constraint and make these 2 chamfers equal. Okay, like this. Next I'm going to use the constraint constant and constrain this line here on this point, and I'm going to use the trim tool to trim this edge here. Okay, now if I skip 2 times, as you can see, I have this geometry for this sketch. I go to model and back to the sketch, double click. Now I'm going to select the equal constraint and make this line and this line equal. I have 3 degrees of freedom, as you can see. Now I select the dimension tool and I start setting the distance of this line here to 7 millimeters, like this. And also I'm going to set the size of this chamfer. I click on this point, and now on this point here, and I create a horizontal distance of 5 millimeters for this chamfer. 1 degree of freedom now. What I'm going to do is to select this horizontal axis and now this line here and set 1 millimeters here. And now I leave the sketch, pressing this icon, and I'm going to make this active pipe operation visible, spacebar. Select the operation and spacebar, and here I have this. Now I'm going to move this sketch here 15 millimeters in the z-axis of this sketch. I created this sketch on the xz plane. So the y-axis here on the coordinate system for this sketch here is the z-axis. So reason why I'm going to select this sketch and go to the attachment, position, and z-axis, z direction, and change to 15 millimeters, and then enter. Close this start page. And now with this sketch selected, I'm going to extrude the sketch, selecting this tool here, pad tool, and I'm going to set 80 millimeters here. Okay, and now I press OK, and next I'm going to mirror this shape here on the side. To do that, I select the pad tool and now the mirror tool, and I will use the XZ plane for this operation. To do that, I go to the task panel, plane, and change here to XZ plane. This plane here, and now press OK. Now I'm going to create another sketch, but this time on the YZ plane. That sketch is for this shape here. So I'm going to my document and create a sketch on the YZ plane. First here, I'm going to switch to the session view on the sketch workbench, and I'm going to use the external projection geometry to extract this edge here, and this edge, and now this edge here as normal geometries. And also I'm going to use the line tool to connect this point here and this point. And now I skip this tool. As you can see, I have 4 degrees of freedom. What I'm going to do is to zoom in here, select these 2 points in this way, and place a constraint constant, and the same thing on this side here. Constant constraint, as you can see, full constrained. Now I'm going to use the rectangle tool and create this rectangle, and also I'm going to create a chamfer on the bottom corners of this rectangle. As you can see, here we have the chamfer. So I'm going to select this tool here and now create this chamfer and this chamfer. Okay, also I'm going to use the constraint constant to constrain this line here and this point, and also use the trim tool. And now I skip this tool. As you can see, I don't have a line here. Now I select the equal constraint and I make this line and this line equal, and these 2 lines here equal. 3 degrees of freedom. Now next I select the dimension tool again and I click on this line here, and I will set a length of 7 millimeters. Okay, and this chamfer here, I'm going to create a vertical distance of 5 millimeters. Now to full constrain this sketch, I select this horizontal line and this horizontal axis, and I set 1 millimeters. And I'll skip 2 times to leave this sketch, and here I have this. Now I'm going to move the sketch 65 millimeters in the Z direction of this sketch. I created this sketch on the YZ plane. So for this sketch here, the x-axis of the coordinate system is the z-axis of this sketch. So I go to the model, I select this sketch, I go to attachment, position, and Z duration, Z position, and I change here to 65 millimeters, and now I press enter. And with this sketch selected, I choose to create extrusion. I choose to create an extrusion, a reversed extrusion with a length of 6 millimeters, and now OK. Now what I'm going to do is to create another sketch now on this face here, that sketch for this shape here. Okay, so I'm going to select this face here and create a sketch on it. And first I will switch to the session view. Now I'm going to change to construction geometries and use the external projection geometry to extract this edge. And on this side here, I'm going to extract this edge here. Okay, and now I go to this side here, I change to normal geometries and I select polyline tool here. First I create a vertical line starting from this point here. I created this vertical line, and now this line here, and next this line, and now I press M 3 times to create this arc. I click in here and I have this. Next here I will select the fillet tool to create a fillet on these 2 lines here. To do that, I go to this tool here, I click on this arrow and I select create fillet, and I create this, and I have the fillet as you can see. Now I'm going to skip this tool and drag this line, drag this point to here. I will select the center point and this point here and place a vertical constraint. To do that, I click on this arrow and I select constraint vertical. Next I select the dimension tool, I click on this point here and now on this point, and I set a distance of 12 millimeters. And now for this fillet here, I'm going to set 1 millimeters for the radius. And now this line here, I'm going to set 10 millimeters, okay, like this. And next for this line here and this line here, I'm going to set an angle of 25 degrees. And here I have this. This sketch is full constrained, as you see. Now I'm going to create a line here on the mid of this line. I select line tool and I create this line on the midpoint of this vertical line here. I create this horizontal line, and next I select cycle tool and I create this cycle on the center point. This cycle here I'm going to constrain to 5 millimeters of diameter. Okay, and now I escape this tool and I select this line here, and I will change to construction geometry pressing this icon. Now I'm going to set the length for this line here. To do that, I select the dimension tool and I click on this line here and I set 6. Now I hide these all constraints here, pressing this icon. As you can see, this is the geometry. Now I go to this side here, and first I select the polyline tool. I create a line starting from this point here. I create this line. Now I press them 3 times to create this arc, and now 2 times to create a normal line. And next here I create this, and now I close the geometry pressing this point here. And I skip this tool, and what I'm going to do next is to create a fillet here. I select this icon and now I create this fillet. Next I'm going to apply a tangent constraint for this arc here and this line. As you can see, if I skip this tool and drag this point, I have this. So I'm going to select this arc and this line here and place a tangent constraint, and I have this. And I will disable this option and OK here. Next I select the cycle tool and I create a cycle on the center point. I constrain to 5 millimeters of diameter. Next I use the dimension tool to set the radius of this arc here to 1 millimeters. And next from this point to this center point here, I'm going to set 6 millimeters like this. And the radius of this arc here, I'm going to set 5 millimeters. Next here, I'm going to apply a constraint horizontal for these 2 points. First, I escape this tool, I select this point, and now this center point here, and I click in here, and I select constraint horizontal. And I have this. As you can see, I have a problem here, partial redundant. So I will Ctrl Z this and select the points in this way and place a horizontal constraint, and now I have this without problems. Now I change to construction geometries. I select this tool here and I extract this edge, and I will apply a parallel constraint for this edge here and this line, and I have this. Next I use the dimension tool and set this line here to 8 millimeters. Yes, it's 8. And now I press escape 2 times because this sketch is full constrained, and I press home here. And next here I will extrude the sketch, selecting the pad tool. I will set reverse it and change to 6 millimeters here and OK. Now what is missing is to create copies of this part here in the X direction. To do that, I go to the model tab, I first select the pad 002 and control this last pad here. And for this operation, I'm going to use the mode transform tool. So I click on this icon. On this task panel here, I go to transformations and right click, and the first thing that I'm going to add here will be a linear pattern. So I click in here. And first I change the duration to X, so I go to duration and I select this option, X-axis, and now I'm going to change the length here to 35 millimeters and reverse it and reverse the duration, and here I have this. Now I press OK here, right click and add mirror transformation. I will mirror these 2 shapes in the YZ plane. I click in plane and I select YZ plane, and now OK here and OK to finish this operation. Now that I have this, what is missing is this operation here, this pocket. To create this, I will use a sketch, a profile sketch, and a path sketch. So first I will click on the create sketch icon and select axis plane as the attachment plane for the sketch. I will switch to the session view and zoom in here, and now I'm going to use this tool here to extract this point and this point and this point, and change to normal geometries. And now I'm going to select the slot tool and create this slot. Okay, now here I'm going to select the constraint symmetric, this tool here, and select this point, and now this center point. And now I have this slot centered in these 2 points here. Now I use the dimension tool to set the radius of this arc here to 1.5, and I have this. Next I selected this point here, and I create a vertical distance of 58 millimeters, 0.5, and enter. And here I have this. Now escape 2 times. Now I'm going to remove material on this part here. To do that, first with this sketch selected, I select the subtractive pipe tool, this icon, and now I will add a path for this profile sketch. To do that, I click on the object button, and then I go to the model tab, and I selected this first sketch here as the path sketch for this profile sketch. I select this and I go back to tasks, and now I press OK. And as you can see, I have this, and the design of this part 1 model is finished. So I'm going to save this document, pressing this icon, and go to the part 2. Okay, for the part 2, I'm going to create a copy of this part 1 here. To do that, first I go to the model tab, I disable this part 1 body object here, double click, and next I select this object, and what I do, I press Ctrl C on my keyboard and I press OK on this window. And now to pass the sketch, I press Ctrl V on my keyboard, and here I have this part here, this body object. I'm going to rename this body object to part 2, pressing F2, and here I have this. First here, I'm going to hide this part 1 here, so I select this part 1 and spacebar, and now I have only the part 2 on the view. First, I'm going to activate the part 2, double click, and the first thing that I'm going to do with this 3D model is to change the height. To do that, I will go to the pad operation, this first pad here on the body part 2. I select this pad here and I go to its parameters, I find the length here and I change to 40 millimeters and I enter. And as you can see here, I have this. Okay, and also I have some problems here with this shape here. Now I'm going to show you how to fix this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to find the sketch that I used to create this shape here. I think the sketch is in this operation here, the pad 007. So I will make this pad here visible, spacebar, and then go to this pad 007 and click on this arrow and make this sketch visible, spacebar. As you see here, I have the geometries. So I double click on this sketch here and I will make some changes on this sketch here and make all constraints visible, pressing this icon, and here I have this. The first thing that I'm going to delete here will be this angle. I select this angle here and delete, and now I change this dimension to 8 millimeters. Next here I'm going to drag this point to here, and I think I can extract this edge here and then set distance from this point to this point. So I will change to construction geometries and select external projection geometry, and now extract this edge here. And next use the dimension tool to set the distance between this point and this point here. I'll set 5 millimeters and it's full constrained. Now I'm going to close this sketch and make this pad visible, spacebar, and now hide the sketch here, spacebar, and as you can see I have this. Now I'm going to make this subtractive pipe visible, spacebar. Now I'm going to remove this cut here, and to do that I will delete the subtractive pipe operation to create this. Okay, I select this operation here and I delete, and next on this sketch here I double click, and next I'm going to delete the symmetric constraint here. I select it here on the task panel and delete, and also this dimension here. I drag this slot to here, and now I drag this point to here, and I will use the constraint symmetric again. Now I select these 2 points here and now this center point, and I have this. Now I close this sketch and I will use active pipe tool to add material. So with this sketch selected, I select the active pipe tool, and then I click on the object button, and now I go to the model and I select this sketch here as the path sketch for this profile, and now I press OK here, and I have this, as you can see. So I will go to the pad 007 and select this sketch here and Control C and use original selections, and now I will paste the sketch on the document, Control V, and now I will close this and drag the sketch into this part 2 body object. I'm going to double click on this sketch here and I will remove this geometry. I select this geometry and delete, and now I escape 2 times. The idea of removing the shapes here, the sketch, is to create this shape here. Okay, and to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do is to change the attachment of this sketch here. So I select the sketch here and spacebar to make it visible, and on this sketch first I will delete this geometry here. So I double click on this sketch here and I select this geometry and delete, and now I close the sketch. I am going to try to extrude this sketch here, but first I have to change the attachment or the Z position of this sketch here. So with this sketch selected, I go to attachment, position, and Z position, and I set 6 here. No should be a negative distance, and I have this. Now with this sketch selected, I will try to extrude this sketch. So I select the pad tool here and I set reverse it, and now I change here to is 29 millimeters. I change to 29. As you can see, I have a problem. Okay, if I press OK here, this is the problem. So now let me show you how to fix this. First, I will close this and cancel this operation, and maybe the problem here is in the attachment of the sketch here. Okay, with this sketch selected, right click and go to attachment editor. As you see here on this field here, this sketch is attached to the pad 006 in the face 27. This pad here, 006, is this pad here. Now I want to attach this sketch here on this active pipe operation. So I go to tasks, and first here I have to go to the model tab and make the active pipe operation visible, spacebar, and go back to tasks, and now I click on the plane button, and what I'm going to do here is to select this face, for example, and I will change. I will set 0 here in the Z direction, 0, and now I click off, and as you can see I have this, and I press OK to finish this. Okay, now I select this sketch again and I select pad tool, and now I'm going to set 29 millimeters here, and as you can see I have the same problem. Okay, if I change here to 28, as you can see, I have this. If I change here to 28.999 three times, as you can see, I have this. And I think it's okay here. So okay, I will press OK here to finish the operation, and now I will mirror this shape on this side here. To do that, I select the path, and now I select the mirror tool, and I will change the plane here. I think is the YZ plane. Go to tasks and select YZ plane, and now I have this. Now I press OK, and I think it's all fine here. So okay, now I save this document and I disable this part to body object. Double click, and now I will make the part 1 visible, spacebar. And now I'm going to show you how to simulate and assemble using the transform tool. So I select the part 2, and next right click and transform tool, and now I will move this part to here. And now I'm going to this task panel. I will change the rotation increment to 9 degrees, and I will rotate in this x-axis, and now I will rotate the model on the z-axis like this. And next here I change to the right view. I will change here to, let's say, 45 degrees and rotate this in this way. Now I'm going to change the placement of the transform tool on this model to this edge here. To do that, first I will go to, I click in here and I select custom, and now I zoom in here, I rotate this view, and I select this edge here as the reference, and now I scroll down here and I select move to other object. Now I zoom in here and I select this edge. Okay, and as you can see, I have this problem. Okay, I'm going to flip this, and as you can see, it's all fine now. And okay, I change to the right view, and I will try to rotate this in the z-axis. As you can see, I have this. Okay, I will close this and press OK here. And the design of the part 2 is finished. I save this document, and let's go to the part 3. I will create a new body pressing this icon, and I will rename this body to part 3 pressing F2. And now I select these two bodies and spacebar to hide this. And next I create a sketch. This sketch I will create on the XZ plane. And now I change to normal geometries here and I zoom in. Next I select the polyline tool, and first here I will create this horizontal line, and now this vertical line, and next this horizontal line and a vertical line. Now next I select arc tool, I click on this line, and now I create this arc on these 2 points, and I have this. Next I use the dimension tool to set the dimensions of this sketch. First I start from this line here. Here I'll set 4.9 divided by 2, and I have 2.45 millimeters. And now for this arc here I will set a ratio of 4.8 millimeters, and I have this. And next I select this line here, and I will set a distance of 41.5 divided by 2, and I have this. And next this line here, and I will set 47.5 millimeters divided by 2, and I have this. This sketch is full constrained. Escape 2 times to leave this sketch, and now I will select the revolve tool to create the shape. I select the revolution tool, I change the axis to x-axis, and now I press home. As you can see, I have this. I press OK here. I go to the model tab. I select this part here. I select this revolution, and I choose to mirror this in the YZ plane. And now I press OK, and I have this. So I finished the design of the part 3. Now I disable this part 3 here and I create a new body. I rename this body to part 4 like this, and I save the document. Okay, now I'm going to hide this part 3 here. I select this and spacebar, and next I create a sketch for the part 4. I click on the create sketch icon and this sketch will create on the YZ plane. Okay, now what I do, I select the cycle tool. I click on the origin axis and I set a diameter of 5 millimeters for this cycle. And next here I select arc tool and I click on the origin axis and I created this arc. Okay, now I select the polyline tool and I click on this point here. I press M 2 times to create a normal line, and now I will create this line here, and now I will create this vertical line, and now this line here, and next this line, and now this line here, and now I escape this tool and I click on this point here, press M 2 times to create a normal line, and I create this. Now I escape this tool and I select arc tool. Now I click on the vertical axis and I create this arc here, zoom in here and I create this arc. And next I select the polyline tool, I click on this point here, I press M 2 times to create this normal line, and now I create this, and now I click in here. Now I escape this tool and I make this line here a horizontal line. And I select the fillet tool, I create this fillet here and a fillet here in these two lines and another fillet here. Okay, now escape this tool and I will select this arc, and now this arc here, and next this arc, and I will set a radius of 2 millimeters for these all arcs, and I have this. Now I'm going to make this arc and this line here tangent. To do that, I select the tangent constraint and now I select these two geometries and I have this. Next I select the equal constraint and I make this arc here equal to this cycle, and I have this, as you can see. I have 16 degrees of freedom, as you see here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is to hide this all constraints here and select the dimension tool. Okay, first here I'm going to select this line and this line here and set this angle 130 degrees, and now this line here and this line here, and I'm going to set 20 degrees here, and now this line and this line here I'm going to set 100 degrees. For this line here I will set 2 millimeters. Okay, and the distance from this center point to this line here I'm going to set 2 millimeters. This line here and this line here I'm going to set 30 degrees. Now I click on this line here and I set 2 millimeters, and now this line here and this line I am going to set 10 degrees. 9 degrees of freedom. Now I had these all constraints here, pressing this icon 2 times. Now I'm going to select the center point and create a vertical distance of 12 millimeters. This line here I will set 32 millimeters. Now I'm going to use the constraint tangent and make these two geometries tangent. Okay, now I select the dimension tool again and I select this point here and this line here and I set a distance of 4.5 millimeters. Next here I zoom in and I select this arc here and I set a radius of 6 millimeters. And now this line here and this one I'm going to set 9 degrees. Okay, and here I have this. And now I zoom in here, I escape this tool and I drag this point to here. Okay, here I will select this distance and delete, and now I drag this to here. Okay, as you can see, I can't move this point here. So what I'm going to do is to select this dimension and delete. And now I can drag this. Okay, here what I'm going to do is to select this point and the center point here and apply a horizontal constraint. Okay, and now I'm going to drag this point to here. Okay, I have 3 degrees of freedom, as you can see here. I make all constraints visible, pressing this icon. And okay, first let me select this and delete, and now drag this to here. And now I will select these 2 points here and apply a vertical constraint, and I have this. Next I use the dimension tool again, and I selected these 2 points here, and I will create a distance of 2 millimeters here. And now 2 degrees of freedom. As you can see, what is missing here, escape this tool, and I drag this. Okay, I will select the dimension tool again, and now I click in this line here, and I set, let me say 2 millimeters. No, let me say 1 millimeters, and I have this. And now I will use the constraint constant to constrain this point on this vertical axis. Okay, and I have this. Now escape 2 times to leave this sketch. I press home, and now I select the pad tool. I will set the length of 28.5 millimeters for this extrusion. Okay, now I press home, and next I will rotate this view and select this edge here and create a fillet. I select fillet tool and I set 0.1. Okay, now I'm going to select this edge and this edge, now this edge and this edge here, and create a fillet of 0.5 millimeters, and then okay, enter, and I have this, and the design of the part 4 is finished. So I save this document and I go to the model tab, and now what I'm going to do here is to disable this part and see what's the problem with the pad 008 of the part 2. So I will hide this part here first, spacebar, and now I will make the part 2 visible, spacebar. I click on this pad here. Okay, I set 28 here, 0.99, and okay, it's fine now. Now I double click. Now I make this all parts visible. I select these 2 parts here and spacebar, and now this part here and spacebar. Okay, as you see here, I have all parts designed, and now let me show you how to assemble these all parts in the built-in assembly workbench of FreeCAD. Before I move to the assembly workbench, I will create simple copies of these all parts here. I recommend to do that. So I will move to the part workbench, this workbench here, and select this part 1 here, part 2, part 3, and part 4, and then go to part, and now create copy, and now create simple copy. Okay, and now I will create a new document, and in that document I will place these parts here. So what I do, I click on new file, and now I go to this beginners model document, and I select these all parts here, Control C, and now I go to this model and I paste the documents here. Okay, and now I'm going to close this document. First I save the document, and I close this, and I close this. Now I will create a group. In that group I will place these all parts here. So I click on this icon to create a group, and now I select these parts here, and I move this part to this group here, and now I press spacebar, and now I can move to the assembly workbench. So I go to workbench selector and I select assembly workbench. This is the built-in assembly workbench of FreeCAD, and I'm going to show you how to assemble all these parts in this workbench. Okay, the first thing that I have to do is to save this document. So let me save this document. I click on this icon and I will save this document as assembly parts, like this, and okay. And now what I'm going to do is to create this object, create assembly object, pressing this icon. Okay, and now to add parts to the assembly object, I have to click on this icon. And the first part that I'm going to import is this part one here. So I click this one time, and this part here will be a fixed part. So I will click yes here, and I have this. Now I will import the part 2. So I click here, and I have this, as you can see. Now I will import the part 3 6 times. So I will press here 6 times, 5, 6, and I have this. Now I will import the part 4 2 times. So I press here 2 times, and I have this. Now I press OK, and I have these all parts here. First, I will start by assembling these two parts here, the part 1 and the part 2. So I will select these all parts here and hit spacebar to hide this. Now I zoom in here, I selected this edge, and I go to here and control this edge here, and here I will press revolution joint, this icon here. So I press this icon, and as you can see I have this. Now I will flip the direction of this assembly, and as you can see I have this. Now I press OK here, and if I want to simulate an opening or a closing motion, what I have to do is to press Alt and click on the model and drag this. Okay, as you can see I have this. Now the next thing that I want to do is to assemble the part 3 copies on these all models. So what I do, I select the part 3 here and shift part 8 and spacebar to make these all parts visible. Now I click off, and next I select, for example, this edge here and control this edge, and I will place a fixed joint. So I click in here and I have this, and I will do the same for these all parts here. I selected this edge and now this edge here, and I place a fixed joint. I press OK here. To see this part here, and I select this edge. Now I rotate the view again, and now I zoom in and I select this edge here, and now I place a fixed joint and OK. Okay, now what I'm going to do is to activate this assembly, double click, and now I'm going to assemble these two parts here. I select this part and also this part here and spacebar. Okay, and now I zoom in here and I select this edge. Now I rotate the view, I zoom in here, control, select this edge here, and I will place a revolute joint. I press this icon, I press OK here to finish this, and next here I select this edge, and now I rotate the view again and I zoom in here and control, select this edge, and now I place a revolute joint again, and now I press OK here, and it's all. Okay, I can press Alt and click on this part here and simulate a motion. Okay, I can do this in the built-in assembly workbench of FreeCAD. So this is all for this video. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to hit like and share this video with your friends. Okay, and if you want to support the content of this channel, you can do that. Just go to the description of this video and you'll find a link to the channel's Ko-Fi page. Or you can support the channel buying the ebooks that's appearing on the screen now. If you want the drawing page of this 3D model, you can find it on the 200 3D exercise for FreeCAD 1.0 plus. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.